The first thing he stumbles across is an explosion factory, literally called an explosion factory.
Explosives factory.
Yeah, sorry,
because an
explosives
explosion factory sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 78. I'm your host, Ryan, here with your other host, Hetch.
What's going on?
We're back.
And we're back for story time. So tuck yourselves in, make sure you've got your little nightcap on.
Yeah.
And get ready for some sweet dreams. Explosive dreams.
We've been alluding to this one for a while now, since our Paint the Town episode, and even a little bit before then. Obviously, go check that one out, definitely, because this is kind of a continuation of that. We'll speak more to that when we go through the story. But the part you don't have to go back and listen to is right here. It's housekeeping. It's always up top. You can listen to us everywhere. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all of our info, and then follow us on any platform you prefer. If you want to contact us, you can send an email at podcastcore@gmail.com, and then leave a like, follow, short review / comment wherever you choose to listen. But the easiest way to spread the word is to tell a friend to learn to trust the figments of their imagination by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
Okay, that's the best advice we've ever given anyone. Trust the figments of your imagination.
So we're going to talk about the number one figment of Jinx's imagination, Ziggs. It's great. So we have Bombs a Tribute, which is a very interesting piece. There aren't many stories that we get from the first person standpoint. So when you do get them, it's neat, right? Because when you're writing in first person, you obviously get that characterization thrown in. So the way it's written is less traditional than like a narrated story.
Yeah, the majority of the stories are definitely like just following the champion, and then like getting all of the other characters that they're interacting with. I think like I'm blanking on the name of that story, but the story that we did that was with Callista and the harrowing.
Yeah.
That is like the only first person story that we followed with. So like the other first person stories were following the perspective of not even a champion, of a unknown character witnessing this champion.
Yeah.
So this one is refreshing because we get into not just anyone's mind, but one of the craziest characters' minds.
Yeah. So we'll pause here. Spoilers for Paint the Town. Go listen to that episode once again before listening to this. All right. This story picks up after the events of Paint the Town, right? Where Heimer essentially looks at Ziggs during the town kind of convening after all the shenanigans he did with Jinx. And he's like, I don't know who that is. Officer, I've never seen that man in my life. And Ziggs decides to give in to his more dangerous, indulgent side. And heads down to Zon, where Jinx told him to go. That's where the fun is.
Yep. And now that Ziggs knows that's where the fun is, where's the fun? What is the fun? What are we gonna do for fun now that we're in Zon? Oh, Ziggs is gonna have fun. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, so this is broken into 4 parts here, actually a clean break in the story. So we'll start with part 1 here, where we have Ziggs arriving in Zon, and he has the urge to blow things up. He's finally committed to himself. I'm going to let my true self shine, especially down here in a place that's known for these kind of shenanigans. And he also references how he's just fed up with Heimer's rules, and he wants to give in to Jinx's fantasy, right? That she said, hey, there's a land far beyond that has everything you wish for.
And that land is Zon, and you already get put into Ziggs' mindset right from the get-go, since it is following after Paint the Town, because that first line is, okay, Zon, I'm here, I'm fuzzy, and I'm ready to explode stuff.
It's like it's Vegas for him.
He's in Vegas. He's living the dream now.
So the first thing he stumbles across is an explosion factory, literally called an explosion factory.
Explosives factory. Because an explosion factory sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I gotta put you on blast like that.
So he sees it and he runs into the door and he's shocked to find out that it looks run down, looks uncared for. He thinks that in Zon, people would love this, right? But no, it's a rundown building. And he hopes there's some action happening behind the walls, like a hidden club type situation, right? He's like, because this can't be. So he walks up. The first thing he sees is this giant keep out sign, which turns out to be the villain of the story. But he ignores that,
Yeah.
even though he's saddened. And when he opens the door, which has a broken lock on it, and he peeks in, he doesn't see any action. What he does see is two chitlins.
For anyone that has not grown up in the South, Chitlins is a Southern dialect or the Southern native language to refer to children. Uh, but yeah, there's two kids hanging out in this abandoned bomb factory, which really kind of like it ends up setting Ziggs' mindset of just how upset he is that this explosives factory is abandoned because for him this is like Santa's workshop. What kind of monster would find Santa's workshop, find Santa, he's real, the workshop's real, and then close it? Like that only a monster would do that. It's for the like for the good of all mankind, you do everything for Santa's workshop. But for Ziggs, it's bombs. You blow crap up. So why are these two kids in here in an empty building? This will not stand.
And the kids are just as disappointed as he is when they see there's nothing to do in this building, right? They're just kicking rocks or whatever. And they finally get bored. They're children. They wander away. But during this time, Ziggs is hiding because he knows he's a Yordle. And especially in Zon, he's like, most of the world hasn't seen or interacts with many Yordles. He's aware of that, especially after the events of Paint the Town. So he's laying low, right? So once they leave, he has this epiphany where he's like, well, there's no bombs in it. I'll just fill it with bombs myself.
Yep.
And this leads us into part two.
Yeah, and the as far as with this like with the kids like leaving and being upset, like Ziggs is also kind of taking on this idea of putting the bombs in because the kids were like they were there trying to find bombs. And Ziggs is now like, okay, well, if someone killed Santa, I can become Santa. Like this is Ziggs. This is Ziggs' attempt at civil service. All right, like this is he's joined the Big Brother program, and the way to be a Big Brother is to give kids bombs. It makes sense. Um, but like as far as with him hiding, we do cover it in Paint the Town. He's hiding because at this point of the comics, Yordles are not really welcome. So Heimerdinger and Ziggs, when they were in Piltover, used glamours to appear human. But now with after the end of Paint the Town, Ziggs is like, I'm not going to be in a glamour anymore. I'm going to be a proud Yordle. But a proud Yordle still has got to hide because people don't want to see Yordles. So
Yeah.
he's got to play it low.
Yeah. So in the part two here is he now has the building to himself and he goes into this it's like cue your Disney music as he goes into this jaunty monologue where he's ranting and raving about what he's going to do to the place. It's like he's gonna decorate it, right? Like he's gonna change it and restore it to its glory days. And it's funny because he mentions here how he talks about his experience with Jinx and how he's a figment of Jinx's imagination, but he lets his mind run freely in this monologue that makes him sound just as crazy as he talks about bombs. And it almost sounds like he's doing a little pitch, right, about his restoration efforts, although no one's around to listen, about the glory he's going to bring back to this establishment. But he's happy to do it to burn it all down with his shenanigans. Because if it's run down now, wait until he's done with it.
Yeah, I do kind of like one of the things that I enjoy here is that like he's like enjoying the creative process, so he's coming up with a new style of bomb for himself
Yeah.
here. Um, and he's like, I'll call them the chain smokers, but like they're described as these bombs that will go off one after the other instead of all at once. And to me, that kind of gives like a nice little tip of the hat to the League of Legends game because it sounds a little bit like his E, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, leaving out a bunch of bombs, but they only blow up if you walk into them kind of deal.
Yeah.
So it's not like a direct translation, but it's like, okay, a nice little tip of the hat of like, yeah, remember where we got this character from. But otherwise, yeah, this whole bit is, again, this is, he's just doing his service to the community. Like that's like he is doing the right thing here and bringing the people what they want, bombs.
He's gonna put on a really big show. Um, so we move on to part 3 here, where he does his shenanigans. He gets all his bombs ready, and he actually goes on to mock the keep out sign. It's almost like the keep out sign is another character in his little play here. And he mocks it for not doing its job when he waddles back in. He's like, "Oh, so much for that keep out sign," as he's posting bombs everywhere.
I need anyone that's got like some artistic ability listening to this. Do me a favor and take that meme format of Lisa from The Simpsons looking at the keep outside and like keep out or go in. I'm a sign. Like I can't stop you because this is what's happening here to Ziggs.
So another move from the game appears here. He prepares the party popper, which is a satchel charge essentially, and he sets it for 60 seconds. And he's just so overwhelmed with excitement, he almost forgets, oh no, I should leave the blast range. So he walks out of the building across the street.
And like he's even specified that he doesn't want to blow himself up.
Yeah.
And if you play League of Legends, there are times that Ziggs will blow himself up. Is this one of those times? Let's continue to find out.
So, in part 4 here to wrap things up, the charge is set and he's waiting across the street behind a pile of junk. It's Zon. There's junk everywhere. Unfortunately, these kids return to the building unknowingly and they start just spraying graffiti on the wall that is set to blow, that has the charge on it. Now, something he mentions here is that these guys or these kids are like punkish, right? And what we know from like Jinx's gang and Echo's gang, the steampunk gang, is that, or chempunk gang, is that they love doing graffiti. So this could be a reference to some kids that are from that group, right? Who knows? All the kids are basically orphans down here.
Yeah, like I mean, Zon is not filled with a lot of like different kids than the Kim Punks. It's one of those towns that's like you join the Kim Punks, or you pray that you don't get killed by a Kim Baron, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a rough town. But the big issue here is that Ziggs in his mind has this artistic presentation in all of these bombs. And the wall that they're graffitiing is the wall that he's put the satchel charge on specifically to blow the wall away so he can see the explosion.
Yeah.
Because again, bombs. This is the civil service. What's the point of doing all of this unless people can watch it? So these kids are screwed at the moment.
Yeah, it's bad news. And Ziggs, as he mentions here, he's against his desire. He doesn't want them to know he's there, but he has to yell at these kids. It's just him, the kids, and the keep outside. And he says, "Hey, move." And the kids turn around to look at him, and they see this fuzzy guy in his Ziggs gear, and they start laughing instead. And then he thinks to himself, I should just leave them alone. Who cares if these kids get blown up? That will teach them a lesson. But then he reminds himself that that's something Jinx would do. And Jinx is a psychopath.
Yep. Like, what kind of world? Like, this is just good world building. Because what kind of world do you take a character like Jinx, who, with the more content we get, like Arcane in these comics, is a broken person with a just non-existent psyche now, right? Like just truly a psychopath, like Zig says. And you use that kind of character as the moral compass for a complete like pyromaniac psychopath.
Yeah.
You've given another psychopath the moral compass of like, no, I can't blow these kids up. That's what she would do. No. We're better than that. Like that's good, like character building there. And like but we get like this back and forth of him just arguing with himself because it's like, what? No. What? I'm helping you. Why are you gonna laugh at my physical appearance? Oh, wait, you're gonna die. Okay. Let's not die. Let's fix this.
Yeah, so he interferes. And with 10 seconds left, because listen, Ziggs is a professional, he's keeping track of the count in his mind. We get the count throughout this whole description, and he decides, "Fuck it, I'm running in." So he runs in, knocks the kids out of the way, and the bomb goes off. And it's this mixture of, obviously danger, but also an adrenaline rush, right? Because as Hetch mentioned, he's not trying to blow himself up, but if he gets caught in it, it's not so bad, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like the goal there is not to die in the explosion.
Yeah. So he can do more explosions.
So if you get to ride the explosion
Yeah.
and live, this is all good fun. So he's just like a direct quote here from When the Bombs Go Off. Yes, bombs away.
It's definitely it's almost like a Willy Wonka moment, to be honest, when you think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, it really is it really is like that. Like you can just see him just kind of like, feigning his own fall and everything because it's like, yes, this is all just a show. It's all just a show. And what a better way than like to be blowing yourself up and just be like, yes, look at my explosion.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, and the problem is though, they're not looking at it. So once he comes back to his realization, he's no longer alone. The kids are still there, the keep out sign's still there, but now people have gathered around to see what the commotion is. And he's dancing and yelling in glee about his art display, and everyone is looking at him instead of the explosion, and he has an epiphany again. He's like, wait a minute, this is Zon. They're used to this. They're used to buildings falling in on themselves. They're used to explosions. But what they're not used to is a crazy Yordle who's basically on fire.
And who's also dancing. It's a creature that you're not used to seeing because like we cover and paint the town, they use glamours.
Yep.
The Yordles do at that point to appear human. So it's for these guys, it's probably like the first time in a long time that they've actually seen a Yordle. So there's this little cotton fuzzy ball that's just like dabbing in front of this explosion. And it's like, okay, like Kim punks, like it's like the Kim punks are always fighting people, and the Kim Barons have taken out buildings, like we cover in our Renata Glask episode. Like it's like, yeah, everyone has seen a building fall apart and on, whether it's a glorious explosion or not. Not everyone has seen a dabbing cotton ball.
He's just
We're gonna watch
through his Fortnite dances.
Yes.
So he's disappointed now because it's not what he wanted for a reaction, right? So there'll be more explosions another day. He decides, I'm going to bounce, but first I'm going to grab a souvenir. So he walks in and he sees the charred keep out sign, and he wants to grab it to put it up in wherever his new lab's going to be. But then he notices something as he goes for it is a bomb has not gone off yet, and it's waiting and ticking down, and then it explodes with him standing next to it, and this sends him flying through the air as onlookers are now looking at him. And with the most joy in his heart, he says, "See, kids, now that's how you make a bomb." And you see him just it's definitely like an Acme moment or like a Looney Tunes moment as he goes off into the distance and a little star appears.
Yeah. You know for a fact that when he picked up the sign and saw the last chain smoker like ticking away, that he like did the pause and looked at a camera. Very much a Looney Tunes moment. But I mean, this is a very Looney Tune-ish character to go with it. So before he even says, "See, kids, that's how you make a bomb," when that chain smoker goes off, he goes, "Wee!"
And to allude back to people who've played League of Legends, when you play Ziggs, it's like most characters have lines of dialogue, but he has a lot of commentary of just these woohoo wees, and like when he blows himself, because his character is very active in the game, so it fits. Like when you play the game, you get a good example of this Ziggs. This is the Ziggs that we get in game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like he's a deceptively mobile character,
Yes.
especially since a lot of his kit gives a feeling of like a Lux playstyle of just hang back and cast your spells. But he can really just surprise people, like hopping over walls and stuff like that. And in this story, we get him blowing up a wall and then hopping over probably like 10 different walls because he goes off into the horizon. Um, so we're definitely getting a nice splash of that while also getting into his psyche. We can
Yeah.
see the aftermath of Paint the Town, that he really is like embracing this like chaotic, local terrorist
Yeah.
vibe, while also still holding on to that shred of morality of he doesn't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
He is really only interested in just making the most beautiful explosions that he can and trying to get people to fall in love with the explosions like he has, but he doesn't want to kill anyone with it.
Yeah.
Like
That's a
that's
great
it.
point.
That's Jinx's job. She could be the psychopath. I just want to blow crap up.
And that leads us into the end here. So that's the end of the story. But this continues our campaign from our other episodes. You've heard us talk about it towards the end of those ones with why we think Ziggs is still such a good idea to be introduced in Arcane. Is this from Paint the Town to this one? It gives you enough story. His links to Heimendinger, his relationship with Heimendinger, and how that changed. His from his bio as well. Listen to that episode, and you'll understand. And then also from this story, where we get to see more of him, and even still referencing Jinx. And to Hetch's point, which is very important, you get him as another crazy character, but one that represents the more fun side of explosions and the morality side of somebody who would be considered psychopathic. He is different from Jinx, but he's also related to her. So it gives you that character to bounce off with, because bouncing Jinx off of the real world, like the rest of the world, obviously it doesn't compare, right? She's so separate from him. But this almost feels like an Arkham Asylum situation in DC Comics, where you have all these different types of villains in Gotham City that are then put in a situation where they're adjacent from each other, and you start to see, well, okay, Riddler's crazy, but he's not Joker crazy, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, well, Bane really wants to kill Batman, but
yeah,
Mr. Freeze is kind of just doing his own thing
yeah.
and just ignoring the law. Uh, I don't even know if Mr. Freeze is right. I'm terrible with
No,
like
that's right.
DC
Yeah, because Mr.
comics.
Freeze is focused on his wife and his health and stuff like that. Like he's
Yeah,
just doing what he needs to do. It is very
yeah, and
self-serving.
it's self-serving at the cost of community.
Yeah,
But like it is all these different mindsets in there, and that would be a cool thing to see in Arcane. But another angle that I would like to see if they do, because we've seen with the first season of Arcane, like we got to Heimerdinger is very much a Yordle, and we got to see a couple other Yordles in the background. So I wonder if they did an introduction to Ziggs coming into the academy, if that would be like an origin story of why Yordles ended up taking on Glamours.
yeah,
Like because we don't really know why like they with these comics the Glamours were used. Like we know that the Yordles weren't necessarily accepted, but we don't have that in Arcane. And Arcane is clearly set at a point prior to this story. Like this Arcane's happening before this. So we don't know why Yordles are frowned upon in Piltover. We just know that they are, so the Yordles have to hide. But we could have it as an origin story of like, hey, why didn't Heimerdinger hide in Arcane? And then like, you could connect it to Ziggs and be like, oh yeah, like this this guy came in and gave a bad name to all of us. Like
exactly.
now everybody thinks you see a cotton ball, it's gonna blow you up. And we talked about it before with getting to see the cameo in Arcane 1 with the storybook that had Timo. Like Timo would also be like someone, because Timo is a very different kind of crazy, back to that Arkham reference, but he is still very, very crazy.
Yeah,
So it's like, okay, like, Ziggs, Timo, these could be the guys that kind of, told everybody else that this is what Yordles are like,
yeah,
and we got to hide. But I think Ziggs would be a more natural transition to that because of his relationship to Jinx.
yeah. And
It would fit.
yeah, and right. Hey, once again, it's here. Take it, right? We're giving you this for free. But we will say, if there's a teaser for Arcane, and you hear like the fans hear Ziggs giggling in the background and then hear like mini explosions going off, people will get hype.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely hyped, because I mean, like, we with this story, it's still got like that Looney Tunes feel to it, but Arcane does not. Arcane as, you know, kind of that more, you know, Marvel and DC-esque movie feeling, where it's like, here's a little bit of comedy here and there, but otherwise there's a lot of serious crap going down. But like, if you throw Ziggs in there, there's still going to be, you know, some cartoony moments, but that would be a fun light to shed on Ziggs, to see just how crazy he actually is and what they could do with that level of crazy in the story.
Exactly. So with that, this has been a quick one, or a quicker one, right? We had some fun with it as always. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Yep. Take care, everybody.